It was the moment Tina Turner's entire crew went completely still. The boy was standing center stage, holding the microphone with both hands. And Tina was 3 steps away when she suddenly stopped. Not to shout, not to wave him away. She stopped because something in the way he held that microphone made her catch her breath. Rotterdam, 1987. The Feyenoord Stadion. 52,000 seats, all of them empty. The Break Every Rule World Tour had been running for 4 months. It had already sold out arenas across Europe, Australia, and Japan. And Tina Turner, at 47 years old, was delivering something the music industry had been told was impossible. A second act. Not a nostalgia tour, not a greatest hits farewell. A genuine, undeniable, full-force comeback that was breaking records and leaving critics with nothing left to say. But on that particular morning, none of that existed yet. On that morning, it was just Tina, her crew, an empty stadium, and 6 hours of rehearsal that had already stripped the room of everything except the work itself. The crew had arrived at 7. 43 people, lighting technicians, sound engineers, stage managers, riggers, monitor operators. Each one of them had learned over the months of the tour that rehearsal days had rules. The stage was Tina's space. You did not walk onto it unless your job required it. You did not interrupt. And above all, you did not touch anything that was placed center stage. The microphone stand, the monitor wedges, the exact position of everything, marked in tape, measured, confirmed, was sacred. James had been with the tour since the beginning. He was a lighting technician. 34 years old, precise and quiet in the way that people become when their work requires them to disappear into the background. That morning he had a problem. His wife had fallen ill the night before. His son, 8 years old, named Noah, had nowhere to go. James had made a call he knew was risky. He had spoken to the stage manager before anyone else arrived and asked, very carefully, whether his son could sit quietly in the wings for the morning. The stage manager, a woman named Clara who had been running tours for 15 years, had looked at him for a long moment. Then she said yes, with one condition. The boy stays in the wings. He does not move. He does not make a sound. And under no circumstances does he set foot on that stage. Noah had agreed, in the way that 8-year-olds agree to things. Sincerely, completely, and with absolutely no understanding of how long an hour actually is. He sat in a folding chair just off stage left. He watched the crew move equipment. He watched the lights being tested, massive beams sweeping the empty seats. He watched his father climb a ladder 40 feet above the stage floor and not look down. He watched Tina run the same 32 bars of music 11 times in a row without once looking like she was tired. He watched her stop a run-through because a monitor wedge had shifted 4 inches from its mark. He watched her walk to it, move it back herself, and start again from the top. He didn't understand everything he was watching, but he understood that whatever was happening on that stage was something that mattered very much to the person doing it. And then, somewhere around the 3rd hour, the music stopped. Tina had stepped off stage for a water break. The crew scattered, coffee, equipment checks, a brief window of movement before the next run-through. The stage was empty. Center stage, under a single work light, the microphone stand stood exactly where it had been placed at 7 that morning. Noah looked at it for 45 seconds. Later, when James asked him what he had been thinking, Noah would say he hadn't been thinking anything. He had just wanted to see what it felt like. He walked onto the stage. 43 people in that arena. Not one of them saw him until he was already there. He was small, even for 8. The microphone stand was taller than he was. He reached up, lifted the microphone from the clip with both hands, and held it the way he had seen Tina hold it during the last 3 hours of rehearsal. Close to his mouth, both hands wrapped around it, eyes forward toward the 52,000 empty seats. And he stood there. Clara saw him first. She was standing at the soundboard, 20 meters from the stage, and she looked up from her clipboard and saw a small boy standing center stage holding Tina Turner's microphone. She did not move. She would later say she simply could not, in that first second, decide what the correct action was. Because in the next second, Tina Turner walked back onto the stage from the opposite wing. She was mid-conversation with her musical director. She had a bottle of water in one hand. She was talking about the key change in the second verse of the third song. And then she saw him. The conversation stopped. The musical director stopped walking. Clara stopped breathing. Somewhere above the stage, James looked down from his ladder and felt something drop in his chest. Tina Turner was 3 steps from the boy. She stopped. The boy had not heard her come in. He was still facing the empty seats, the microphone held in both hands, standing in the single beam of the work light. He was not performing. He was not pretending. He was doing something much simpler and, in that moment, much more powerful. He was imagining. Tina looked at him for a long moment. Her musical director took a small step back. And then Tina Turner did something that 43 people in that arena would never forget. She did not take the microphone back. She walked to the edge of the light. She sat down, on the stage floor, cross-legged, in her rehearsal clothes, and she looked at the boy. And she waited. It took Noah 12 more seconds to realize he was not alone. He turned his head slowly to the left and found Tina Turner sitting on the floor of her own stage, watching him. He froze. His hands tightened on the microphone. Tina did not stand up. She did not reach for the microphone. She looked at him the way a person looks at something they recognize, something they have seen before, in a different face, in a different time. She said, "What do you hear?" The boy blinked. He didn't understand the question. She said it again, quieter. "When you're standing there, what do you hear?" Noah looked back at the empty seats, and then he said something that made Clara, at the soundboard 20 meters away, press her hand over her mouth. He said, "Everyone." Tina Turner looked at him for 3 full seconds. Then she nodded. Once, she stood up, walked to him, and crouched down so her eyes were level with his. She held out her hand, not for the microphone, just her hand. Noah looked at it. Then he put one of his hands in hers. She said, "I heard them too, the first time I stood somewhere like this. They're always there, even when the seats are empty." She stood up. She took the microphone gently from his other hand, replaced it on the stand with the same precision it had held before. Then she looked at Clara and said, "We're going again in 5. James climbed down from his ladder 15 minutes later. He found Noah sitting in the folding chair in the wings, exactly where he had been told to stay. He crouched down in front of his son and asked, very quietly, what had happened. Noah thought about it for a moment. Then he said, "She said they're always there." James looked at him. "Who?" he said. Noah looked back at the stage. "Everyone who ever listened." James didn't say anything after that. There wasn't anything to say. The Break Every Rule World Tour played to more than 4 million people across 25 countries before it ended. It remains one of the highest-grossing tours in the history of live music. Tina Turner performed each of those shows with the same force she brought to an empty stadium in Rotterdam on a Tuesday morning in 1987. The same presence, the same precision, the same absolute belief that the seats, whether full or empty, held something worth giving everything for. People who worked on that tour for 2 years would later say that the thing that separated Tina Turner from other performers was not her voice, it was not her movement, it was not the show. It was the fact that she performed to all of them. Every single one. The ones in the front row, the ones in the very last seat, and the ones who were only there in the imagination of a small boy standing under a single work light in an empty stadium, holding a microphone with both hands. If this story stayed with you, if you've ever stood somewhere and heard the crowd that wasn't there yet, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe for more untold stories from the lives of the people who changed everything. And leave a comment below. What is the moment that made you believe in Tina Turner? We read every single one.